begun a meditation on the Westminster Confession of Faith, and today we want to continue with that, looking at chapter 2, section 2 for this morning. The topic of the chapter is God and the Holy Trinity. In section 2, we read as follows: God hath all life, glory, goodness, blessedness in and of himself, and is alone in and unto himself all sufficient, not standing in need of any creatures which he hath made, nor deriving any glory from them, but only manifesting his own glory in, by, unto, and upon them. He is the alone fountain of all being, of whom, through whom, and to whom are all things, and hath both sovereign dominion over them to do by them, for them, or upon them whatsoever himself pleaseth. In his sight all things are open and manifest. His knowledge is infinite, infallible, and independent upon the creature, so as nothing is to him contingent or uncertain. He is most holy in all his counsels, in all his works, and in all his commands. To him is due from angels and men, and every other creature, whatsoever worship, service, or obedience he is pleased to require of them. In our last meditation on the confession, we noted that the character of God is simple. That is to say that his different attributes, his love, his holiness, his knowledge, his power, are fully revealed in him. And he is not composed of different parts. God is fully love. He is fully all power. He is all holiness, and so forth. And so God is simple, without parts or passions. He is unchanging in his nature. In this next section, we talk about a subject which theologians often describe as God's aseity. That is to say, God's independence, God's absoluteness, his freedom from creation. God exists in and of himself. Cornelius Van Til would describe God as the self-contained God. That might be language that you're not familiar with, but it describes God as complete in and of himself, not having any need from his creation in any way. He did not create the heavens and the earth for the sake of fellowship, having someone to talk to. God was complete in and of himself. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit had intimate, full, and complete communion with each other. There was no need for our fellowship. There was no deficit in God's being that he needed to create something else in order to find fulfillment. God is not dependent upon the creation in any way. He does not derive his life or satisfaction from that creation. He is not one who has to depend upon the creation to know what the future is like. There are some who hold to an idea called open theism, where the future is open to God and to us to discover and see what the future holds. God is in process with us, seeking to discover the future. That is the kind of thinking that our confession speaks against. God is not a part of this world order. He is not a part of this system whereby he needs to grow in his consciousness. In the modern idea of things, man basically is the consciousness of God, and as the spirit of man advances over time, God becomes self-aware, and God begins to understand the future. And only as we make our choices will God understand what the future is really going to be like. The Arminian position is somewhat like that. God does not really know what the future holds because he leaves it up to you to make your choice. And so God is dependent upon you for how he will respond or what he will do with the future. That is not the God of the Scriptures. Our confession notes that God is independent of the creature. He is complete in and of himself. He is entirely blessed in himself. Has absolutely no need for the creation. We do not advance his glory in any way. God is all glorious. And so God is absolute. And in this topic we speak of as Aseity, God in himself. He has all life, glory, goodness, and blessedness in and of himself. He does not depend on the creature for these things. He is all-sufficient, not standing in dependence upon men or deriving glory from them, but manifesting his glory to them. He is the fountain of all being. Any idea that we have of our own being derives from God. There's nothing that we have in and of ourselves that originates with us. Everything comes to us from God himself. And he has dominion over all things. So the confession highlights this independence of God. He's not dependent upon us. This has several implications for us. In our worship, we worship one who is far above us, independent of us. That should humble us before him. We depend on him, not he on us. He does not owe us anything. When God revealed himself to Moses in Exodus 3, he said, I am that I am. He has life in and of himself. He does not depend upon the creature. We are utterly dependent upon him, just as the Israelites were dependent upon him to come and help them there in Egypt. So he himself has life within himself. And that has implications for our worship, that we should glorify him. It affects our understanding of salvation. All is by grace, according to his will and purpose. And it should underline our understanding of eschatology, or the future. It will be formed by God, and he will bring all things to a conclusion. So let us reflect upon the glory of the God whom we serve, and provide him the worship, service, and obedience which is due